Ooh, woo, listening people, ooh, to you all. Ooh.
I think the subtitles will be a bunch of O's and a W, then some more O's.
Ooh, 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 ooh,
Ooh.
ooh, ooh, listening people, it is
Ooh.
I, one of your spooky hosts of Spin Polish Presents, Ryan. And who am I visited by this time round? Who is haunting me? A ghost?
Well, first,
Can ghosts haunt each other?
Can ghosts haunt each other?
Yeah.
I don't see why not. I don't think there'd be much point to it, but I guess
Is there
they
like
can.
a layers of ghost realm where I, as a ghost, can be seen by mortals, but you can only be seen by me, a fellow ghost? Like you're on another level of ghostdom?
I guess. So I'm just in my head. I'm just picturing like you know. How, by the way, I'm Bartek and you're Ryan.
Yeah, I already said that. Yeah.
I couldn't remember. It's just, thinking of ghosts haunting each other. That's like me setting up like an elaborate like Looney Tunes trap for you while you're next to me looking at me setting it up. Like, oh man, Ryan, when you slip on this banana peel and the Rube Goldberg machine of wackiness gets you, you're going to feel really silly. And you're like, yeah, I guess.
The eggs will be on my face.
Yeah, oh, yeah, you can see the eggs.
Oh, what kind of eggs are they?
They're ones that are from they lay the eggs, the chickens.
Oh, I was going to say ducks.
Duck eggs.
Ducks. Do Polish people have specific types of eggs they like, or do they do eggs in a specific type of way in terms of eating and cooking? Or
I think it's pretty traditional. I think
there's no Polish egg dish.
I don't know if it's Polish specifically, but I do remember my grandmother in Poland she'd make hard-boiled eggs and cut them in half, and she would put some sort of like white creamy thing on it. I think it was something I wasn't really into, but
could you please at least name a condiment that it could be, not just she put a white creamy thing on my eggs and I didn't like it. My mind is too dirty and I don't like just being left on white cream.
Maybe some sort of like sour cream,
Okay.
or maybe some sort of like fish thing on top of that. So obviously,
Oh yes,
it's like, I could have just been happy with just the egg on its own.
And did she ever cook you up some denia, which is Polish for pumpkin?
Ooh, Ryan with the facts.
Facts.
She didn't. No, the only relative of mine, two of them that made any sort of denia-related things were my mum and my, I guess, step-grandfather.
Oh, well, there you go. And that is all of the Polish facts for this segment of Spit and Polish Presents. Now we move on to Pictures Powwow, and it's a very spooky edition of Pictures Powwow because it's October time.
That's why you talked about Denia.
That's right, because Denia's haunted to its very core.
Pumpkins are haunted.
Yeah, that's correct. We've watched a few pumpkin-related films over the years.
Yeah, we watched Denia Głowa. I don't know.
Is that Pumpkinhead?
That's the Polish word for pumpkin and the Polish word for head put together.
There we are. And
should I go to filmweb.pl?
No, I think we're all right for now. And we are here to talk about a movie that has come recommended. And since it is this time of year, we are covering films that are a bit more horror, a bit more spooky, a bit more thrilling, a bit more chilling to the bone, and whatever varieties it comes in that way. We are here to talk about a film that does exactly that. Bartek got the honor of kicking us off with Spooky Month this year. What was the film that you gave us?
Not just this year, but last year.
Oh, wow.
And I did the same thing by picking a Takashi Miike film. So we're going to Japan for our first film of Spooky Month 2025.
Ooh.
And the film is the 2001 horror musical comedy, The Happiness of the Katakuris.
And people, if you have not seen this film before, highly recommend that you do. It is quite the interesting thing to behold. The summary is fairly simple, but it's the way it's executed and the way it plays out that makes it so marvelous. It's about this big family who have this guest house accommodations, and wouldn't you know it, tragedy befalls all of these guests that come to them, and they have to deal with all of it and try and maintain their family dynamic. That's a simple way of going about it.
Yeah.
There's songs as well, and there's plenty of comedy to be had. And I had never seen this film before, never heard of this film before. Takashi Miike is a fascinating figure in terms of film. He does everything. He does not say no to anything.
It seems that way, yeah.
He is the ultimate example of a workman director. He has done every genre it comes across. He has done a variety of like tones, and the different eras of his career don't really denote like different styles,
Yeah,
because he just will do Ace Attorney, and then he'll do 13
yeah,
Assassins, and then he'll do this and
he'll
this
do
and
an
this.
original film, then like an adaptation of a thing, then like a remake of a thing from another country. And so last night, while watching the film, you'd already watched it. You messaged me like, "Oh, you should look into the original Korean film," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know this was an original, based loosely on a Korean film." But also, my second reaction was like, "Of course, Takashi Miike would do that."
Of course he would. And I had some expectations because it's a Takashi Miike film. The thing about him that has prevailed through the films that we have seen and the films that he is notorious for, because he is a notorious director. He has been the man behind Audition and Itchy the Killer, which are very
Basically, all the films you were listing last week when you were trying to guess what I was recommending.
But even with some of his more lighter fare, the thing that I would say is the recurring that very much is prevalent here is the touch of surrealism. I don't think I've seen a Takashi Miike film that's like a proper, grounded, real drama. I'm not saying that he's incapable of it, but there's always
I've seen one.
there's always a heightened aspect. There's always some moment of lunacy or absurdity or surrealism that I've seen in his films, and especially on the ones that we've covered here on our podcast
Yeah, this
over
is
the years.
third one, I believe.
Yeah, we did 13 Assassins,
Gozu, and then now this.
and now this. And they all have these elements in common. So I was expecting absurdism, especially because you said it was a horror comedy musical. And
even the few stills that I'd seen from it, because I didn't know too much about it, but it's like, oh, here's them doing like a Sound of Music frolic through a grassy field. Here's the poster that's this like multicolored, like, overstimulating, visual mess kind of thing.
It's an assault on all fronts.
And then a few screenshots actually, it's like, oh, well, here's a live action segment, but here's claymation.
Here's a stop motion sequence.
Yeah.
But I didn't even look into all of that. I just heard the name, looked it up, got a copy of it, and just watched it. And I was delighted. I was thrilled by it. But yeah, I didn't even know what to expect with the plot. I didn't know what the happiness was referring to. I didn't know if this was like a place or, as we find out, a family unit, or like I didn't know really much going in. So you are the person who recommended this. So tell us your process of finding this, your history with it, your familiarity, all of that.
Yep. So I went into it a bit at the end of last episode, but basically the year before this one, 2024, we were doing Year of the Musicals, and it fell on me to pick the first episode of that year's Spooky Month, and it needed to be a non-Hollywood horror film of some sort. We were loose with the musical last year, but I wanted to think, like if I could find one, I would. And I also wanted to see more Takashi Miike films, so I kind of put all these elements together, and it all kind of pointed at this film, The Happiness of the Katakuris. And I was somewhat set on recommending it last year, just to fit the theme, but I really, really wanted to see Gozu, so I, put it aside and thought to myself, oh, maybe next year if I have another non-Hollywood pick for Spooky Month, I'll, give it a fair go. And it did fall that way, so I'm like, all right, let's do it this time. Let's see how foolish I was to not have done it last year.
So you just did some Google searching around to see what would fit the parameters of a foreign horror musical, and this surfaces in amongst all of that. It makes a bunch of sense.
And it being a Takashi Miike, who I've wanted to see more things from, was like an extra little cherry on top.
Oh, you have so many options to pick from with him to see. Because in your life, how many have you seen?
I think beyond the 3 that we've now covered on the podcast, 2 other ones. I've seen the Ace Attorney film, and on a flight like 10 years ago, I've mentioned a couple of times, I watched this one that I think is just a straight drama, but, with his, penchant for surrealism, I'll probably watch it again and realize, oh, no, this one is also like that. It's about a Japanese doctor that's working like the African wilderness.
Oh, interesting.
And I remember that one being just, kind of like a straight drama. It's called like The Lion Standing in the Wind or something.
Oh, nice. So this was this is such a assault on the senses type movie. It starts out very, very gung-ho with a scene at a restaurant that then evolves into this claymation stop motion affair, and then eventually we meet the setting and the family and the people and the situations that the film is actually about.
Yeah, it sets you up for the style of the film, not necessarily the plot.
That's a great way to describe it. I liked the movie overall. I don't know if I loved it. What I think holds me back is it is very formulaic. Once you know the premise is going to be someone comes to them and then dies, and then they have to deal with that, you just wait for it to happen again. And the interpersonal family drama isn't that much to help bolster the connective tissue between these set pieces. It's like when we did cover the musicals we did last year, we talked about how, or in general, how there are some movies or some productions that do a great job of making it feel like they aren't just segments. Like, here's the next song. What do we do? Like, it's just a medley of songs. It's just a karaoke session. And I do feel like that, but with more so the death scenes in this. Like, they're trying their best, but like this film's nearly 2 hours long. Like 10 to 15 minutes longer than the original Korean film it's interpreting. And I did feel the time drag on a bit. And sadly, there weren't enough musical numbers that I loved to help move it along. Like, there's a handful I really liked, but for the most part, the musical numbers came down to my appreciation being the dancing more than the actual songs. It actually reminded me of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, where it's like, I love the dancing in that more than the actual songs. The choreography in
this was like really surprised me. Yeah,
very musical theater.
Yeah, that's one thing to point out. Like, this is a musical, and there are some very kind of traditional musical sequences where they're just singing the whole way through. But then there's a couple where there are a couple of segments where they're singing, but it's more so that they're using elements of musical theater, where it's like, they're doing their dialogue to the rhythm, or they're doing like these very exaggerated physical movements, like
interpretive dance movements,
like
as well.
One of the big ones that I think of is when they find the first body.
That was my favorite song by far.
Yeah, that was a really good one, where like the only part that they really like traditionally sang is near the end, where they're like, where is the will? It was mostly them just jumping between their various reactions, and they're changing their movements, like especially...
And genre style of music changed depending who we were focusing on in that song. Like...
Yeah, and it really highlighted also like the different levels of performance that these actors were bringing. Like, we have this uncle character, for... uncle in terms of to the little girl.
Yes.
Because it's 4 generations of family.
Yeah, there's like the great-grandpa.
Yeah.
And then there's
great-grandfather, his son, his wife, their 2 kids, and the daughter has a daughter of her own.
Yes.
So
it's a lot to take in.
Yeah. From the perspective of that young girl, it's her uncle, but it's also the son.
Yes.
Yeah, this uncle character, he's like an ex-con who like is a bit shifty. And he's pretty standoffish for most of the film, but when you get to these musical sequences, like, his movements are so big and striking, and it's like, ooh, I could see this guy being like a dancer of some sort.
Yeah, he's the musical theater guy.
Yeah.
In real life. I don't know if that's true, but he feels out of all of them to be the one with the musical theater background.
Yeah, well, I looked into a couple of them, and some of them just are straight up singers. Like, I think the dad and the great-grandfather had some sort of singing background.
Not shocking.
Someone else did too. And some of them are just actors. But yeah, a lot of these actors did come from, various different performance styles.
I admired the film very much. I think it just does suffer from... What can happen with these quirky films of the shtick wears off after a certain point. Like, I can admire this and look at it as this like candy cotton absurdist comedy, but like after a certain point, I'm like, okay, what's your point? And it did really hit home at the end. Like, again, people watch this film, gonna spoil it, when we have the big emotional end point of the film with the great-grandfather, and like that actor gets to really act, like he really gets to show a dramatic side. And I was like, man, I wish there was more moments like this in the movie sprinkled throughout. Like, they have them place every now and then, but it's like, oh man, I wish there was some more stuff like that. But overall, like, I did enjoy this, but it's one where I think if I rewatched it, I would want to watch it with a group of people. I don't know if I would watch it again on my own.
That's exactly what I was going to say. This feels like it would be a lot of fun to watch with a group of people.
Yeah.
There's just so many little things happening here and there that's, that was the big draw for me in the film. Like, I didn't feel the length as much, even though I have kind of similar feelings to you, just because I wanted to see, what are you going to show me next? Like, we eventually get a musical sequences where, like the zombies of the victims start dancing with them.
That made me think of Gozu.
Yeah, a little bit. I think this film was shortly before Gozu.
Yes, it was.
Maybe like a year before.
Yes, it was.
I
was shocked by that. I forgot that this came first because Gozu feels so much like an early filmmaker finding their groove, and this one feels more polished, but I kind of love the dreaminess of Gozu more. I like Gozu more, but like...
Oh, yeah, I love Gozu.
I don't know if you agree with that. Like, this one feels like a more polished filmmaker, and then Gozu feels like an early... in the run of a director, but it's weird because it's actually the opposite way around. Like, this is a couple years later. I mean, this is a couple years early, than Gozu.
Yeah,
but like,
I think literally just 1 or 2.
Yeah, because that was 2003. This is 2001.
Oh, yes, so 2 years. Yeah, it was one that, the ride was a lot of fun. It definitely is a little rough in the end. Like, you have all these family dynamics, and it did feel like you wanted a little bit more cohesion there. Like the great grandfather, when he starts having a few moments towards the end, it suddenly just feels like, oh, now we're focusing on him.
Oh, interesting. I thought he was the most connective character in the film, because at first I got thrown off because the little girl, that she's not going to be an actual main character. She's going to be just like an observer.
She's kind of like the Stephen Curry in the castle.
Yeah. But even less present.
Exactly.
But it made it feel like her grandfather, the former shoe salesman, the guy that's the reason they're all here.
Yeah.
He would be the main character, but he isn't.
That's kind of what I felt.
He is sidelined throughout a lot of the movie. Like, there's whole segments where it's like he's physically not in the frame, he's elsewhere, and they're just like, make sure this goes well for him because he's going to be pretty busy. And like, he's the guy dealing with the murders. But for myself, I thought the great grandfather was like the one that was the most present throughout the movie. We even start with him throwing the plank of wood at the bird, and that's like a recurring thing in the movie that he keeps doing. So when it ended with him, I was like, oh, this makes sense. But I was thrown because I thought the grandfather was going to be much more front and center as our lead.
I feel like he was.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to rewatch it again to see maybe what you meant. But yeah, because it all did kind of come back to the grandfather character, the second generation guy. Because, the reason why they're there is because he feels so strongly about, like, no, this will be, a great thing for our family. We're going to get so much business because this place is going to be more developed and people are going to be coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that's stopping them from, calling the police whenever something goes wrong. I just felt like he was kind of the main character.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. It also depends what story strand you're connected to, because I thought that the daughter, the one who was like falling in love with Richard.
Yeah.
I thought she was also like a pretty prominent main character focus. Like, she has like a beginning, middle, and end that's very clear to understand.
Yeah, it comes back to her a lot.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like, for myself, it's an ensemble film in a lot of ways where it has such like clearly defined different story types that if you are more drawn to one, I think you lean on one more than the others. Like, hers was the most compelling in terms of to follow. Like, the Richard character was a real prick. You loved to see him each time he showed up. But then, like, the son, he had his own thing going on in the movie. Like, each one of them, for the most part, have like their own thing going on, but it's like, what are you drawn to the most? And I felt like the great grandfather, like the
oldest one, yeah,
he was the one that participated in each one of those stories for the most part, especially with the daughter character. Like, he's the one that knows that Richard's a bad guy. He's like the only one that's like, this guy's a fucking piece of shit.
He has the action scene with Richard.
Yeah, and he gets the stop motion scene, and he's like the whole, hey, he's stolen an ashtray.
Yeah. When we're introduced to the characters at first, because, it's from the perspective of the youngest girl, who's like 5 years old, somewhere thereabouts. She introduces each of the family members to us, the audience, from her perspective. And I remember for her grandmother, There was some sort of line about like, oh, when she's around, she, is all supportive and helps out everyone. And like
A very traditional Japanese woman is something that she mentions as well in this.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah, and she did feel a bit more like a supporting character in the film. Like she engaged with everyone in a kind of friendly, loving way, very family oriented. And yeah, the son, he does have stuff going on, but it feels more like it's from the perspective of others. So I'd say those two, and I guess the little girl, are a bit less main charactery from my perspective, but definitely strong supporting.
The grandmother, that actress, I think, gives probably the funniest performance, or at least one of the most underratedly comedic performances, because so many other people are going big.
Yeah.
Whether they be the guests that come and die, or the cop, or so many people. I think she was consistently the funniest, like especially when they meet this bizarro version of a family like them that comes to stay, and this mother that's almost like her asks if they can borrow a cord, and they all have their reaction, but the look on the grandmother's face, because she's right next to them on the stairs, she gives the best like reaction to this, and like the best like physical gesture of like cord, and then just does the wrap around the throat. It was just so many moments like that with her, and even like her musical number with her husband about like what they want and what they're aspiring to and all of that. He's playing it much more seriously, and she's playing it much more like, wee, I'm having a good time. And every time there's like hijinks with the bodies, she's the one that's like the perfect level of cranked up emotionally, like, oh my God, this is happening.
I think she was also the one that was most accommodating to the guests. It's like, oh, we got a guest here. We got to be professional, guys.
Yeah, no matter what the situation is, she says, yeah, they could stay. And offers them a thing. Like, do you want a thing? And then, yes, it is. And she's the defender of the son.
Yes.
She's always defending him, because it's like, you had this mantra of like, I will disown him, but then when he came back, it's like, we can fix this, and here we are trying to do this, and you at the first sign of trouble are trying to disown him again. It's like, be consistent with what you are. And it's like, she was, although a supporting character, that's the thing about this film, although I got a bit tired with it, they never faltered with these characters.
No, definitely
Each one of them is interesting. It's just, I don't know, there's just something about it was just like, I think for me it all comes down to if it was just a tighter film, like if it was just a bit shorter and a bit quicker and a bit tighter, then the interpersonal family dramas would snap into place a bit more for me. Like, as we're talking about it, I'm liking what they did do with them, but there's just, I'm not fully bought into it all. Like, when I walk out of the film, like, I'm not feeling like enriched by all of these characters in the way that I think the film kind of wants you to.
For sure. And I feel like I'm very forgiving of the film just because it was such a good, interesting time that, kept me thinking, and I'm still kind of, giggling about it now. But definitely, I feel like, oh, there's definitely more you could have done.
But for a film that is daring to do so much, I completely applaud it. And it does have that filmmaking energy of, we're having fun, we're doing our best. It has that scrappy charm of a bunch of ragtag misfits making a movie and just having a blast while doing it.
Yeah.
Like, there's something infectious about that type of energy that you can feel from behind the camera coming out through the screen. Like, it's what we love about things like Who Killed Captain Alex, where like that's drastically different movie in different context, but there's a certain joy to especially genre films where you feel like they are doing the best that they can, and yet you can still feel like it's not polished up. Like, this isn't the best of the best movie. And Takashi Miike would go on to make much more refined movies, of course, but like, this is one where it's like, man, this is a fun time. Like, we say, let's watch this with a group of people, because it does have a very inviting and self-aware attitude.
So we mentioned that this film does claymation sequences every now and then, and you'll see that a lot of the times it switches to that when you get to something a bit more complicated. Like, there's a scene where two characters are hanging off the edge of a cliff and they're fighting each other.
There's an action scene.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the actors aren't doing that. That's dangerous. And the climax of the film, there's like a big landslide coming and the house is going to be destroyed. And also the dog is trapped on a log and we have to save him by having the grandfather hang upside down from a branch to pick him up, and the dog will reach up to him. Like, that's all sounds very hard to do, like, live action, but in claymation, you can. And you can think of that as like, oh, bit of a crutch there, but it's also a lot of fun when they do that.
And also, when you think about it, that's really time consuming.
Yeah.
Like, the movie opens with a stop motion claymation scene that you don't necessarily need. It doesn't directly tie into everything, but boy, does it set up everything that you need to feel. Because I was watching this with my wife, and she was doing a cross stitch, and she was like, I'm going to pay attention to this somewhat. But that opening scene, she just couldn't focus on anything else. She was just like, what the hell is going on here? And she did laugh a lot when the woman in a gagged voice was like, my uvula.
It's a great thing to be, sad about. My uvula.
My
I
uvula.
remember, all of that stop motion stuff was happening in the opening scene, and I didn't get what was happening. And I said this kind of casually to myself, but it is kind of true. Like, oh, well, already this film is, more artistically valuable than so many other films that we've watched that have, over-reliance on CGI and stuff like that.
We just did the Uncharted movie, and this one has heart.
Yes.
This film has a low budget, but it has heart, it has charm, and it has something to say and something to do. The claymation stop motion stuff. I really liked it when their heads would switch back to the live action versions for like half a frame sometimes. Like it would be real quick.
As the film went on, they played around with that a little bit. I think they even did a thing where like everyone was claymation, but then like
the great grandfather
became live action for a second, and he got confused.
Yeah,
like, wait, what's going on?
He looked at this like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, they got really cheeky with it.
Yeah, and that's the type of thing I love. Like, this made me think of so many films that we've done that just have this, on the surface, absurdist, quirky, anarchic style. But when you think about it for more than a second, it's really meticulous filmmaking that takes a lot of thought process, that takes a lot of time, that, like, we love the Czech movies that we cover, any films from Czechoslovakia. And when we talk about, like, Lemonade Joe or Dinner for Adele, a part of the appeal of those is, like, you could, like, look at them on the surface level as, like, live action cartoons almost. And you can still enjoy them on that level. Like, you can enjoy this film on the very surface level of, like, you're watching a live action Looney Tunes absurdist thing. But then, for people like us, there's a deeper appreciation when you think about, like, they put thought into this. Like, they put effort and energy and time into this, and there's purpose behind that. It's not just an accident. Like, you don't just accidentally just go, oh, let's do a stop motion opening scene. Like, that's a lot of resources you have to put into that. Like, you have to make it worth it.
Yeah.
Or else it's just, you've wasted everything, and it was completely worth it. Or, like, it's a musical. The original film that this is based on is not a musical. Why make it a musical? What's your intention there? And I think, like by the end of it, like, I was won over to it being a musical. Like, I was already on board. But by the end, like, with the momentum and the tone and, like, the pacing of the movie, even though I found it to drag, like, the musical numbers would just kind of match. And each musical number that did come in, I always felt was perfect for the scene it enters. There was a little moment where I was like, a musical number hasn't happened in a while. And then it happened. I'm like, oh, and it was really good.
I remember while watching it, because I think in a lot of the musicals that we've covered so far, we asked the question of, like, oh, so what was your favorite one? And, your answers would be like, oh, I like this one or that one. I think with Repo, I was like, oh, I liked all of the songs that this person sang in. So I was trying to pick that out ahead of time. But I just ended up liking all of them quite a lot in different ways. I was like, oh my God, there's something to say about almost all of these.
Yeah.
I think if I had to pick some, the Richard song.
That was the first one with him in particular.
Yeah, the one where they did like a samba thing. It's like a love song.
Oh, when she's like spinning on a wheel, but like they censor her because her dress fell down.
Yeah, a little
like,
heart.
That was great.
Yeah, that one was great. I liked the
zombie one, as we mentioned.
The zombie one was great. I really liked also the one where the family are trying to sing to get the uncle/son to, get along with them. Because he's like, moping, and he's like, he just wants to leave everything. They're like,
he's being angsty.
Yeah, he's being angsty. And I really liked the touch that the little girl was singing in there. She was really prominent and very cute.
I liked, it's more of a musical interlude, but when, I can't remember the exact moment because this happens a few times, this type of scene, but like they're carrying one of the bodies and they're like doing this kind of dance, over exaggerated walking. Like they're the seven dwarves almost in like Snow White, and they're doing like this over the top walking with the shovels, and it's like this kind of bluish
I think that was
tint
the first
over
one,
it.
yeah.
I loved that.
That was great too.
I loved that.
That's another example of like, wasn't really traditional musical like song, but like it had those elements there.
And Takashi Miike, especially with this film and Gozu, he has this style of visual that is best described as like dreamlike, because every exterior, any like outside shot has this otherworldly bluish tint to it. Like it always feels off, especially when they're dealing with the bodies and stuff. There's always something unsettling about it, and it made me think Gozu, where Gozu had like that yellowish orange tint later on, but at the beginning of the movie it had that blue tint, and
felt
then
very
it changed.
suffocating. Yeah.
And I love that about him. Like even a little bit of that showed up in 13 Assassins, where it's like, that had a little bit of this color grading and tint effect to it that gives it this sense of like otherworldliness. But even in these heightened musical numbers, it still felt like you were in the cold place. Like that little dance number where they're carrying the bodies, they're jaunty and they're doing all of the jaunty stuff, but like you look at it,
it's very oppressive feeling.
It's very oppressive feeling. And like he was very sparring too with like, when we say like absurdist style, like his camera moves aren't absurd. Like he like rarely a Dutch angle used or like an extreme zoom or anything. Like he's very like mannered in the camera work, but it's like the colors and the choreography and like the cutting is manic. But like when you actually think about the cinematography, it's almost shot like a traditional musical for the most part.
There is that one scene. It's the scene where they've just found the sumo wrestler's dead body in the bed. Before you eventually get a shot of like a wide upper angle shot of the room and you see the guy naked in bed. But before that, it's all profile shots.
Yeah, it's real close.
It's really close up and it feels really uncomfortable, and they're all stressed out and like they're trying to describe what they're seeing and you can't see it yourself. And they're like, squabbling with each other, fighting. And it does feel very stressful. And then when you eventually get that shot of like, him naked in the bed face down, it is quite funny.
But then you get the horror shot of when they reveal that the woman is underneath him and she like has this horrified face.
Where's the woman he was having sex with? She must have disappeared. And no,
we know.
She's underneath the sumo wrestler.
We know.
You know what? I wasn't expecting it, actually.
Oh, really?
It actually got me.
I knew immediately, like, oh, she's dead under him.
It's one of those things.
I was like, of course.
It's one of those things where in retrospect, like, this film is so, funny and playful. Like, of course that's where she'd be.
Of course, that's where she was when we saw him die. So where else would she be?
Exactly, yeah.
But I just wanted to emphasize that because I think there's a, not an ill-conceived conception of this, but like perception of this, but like when we talk about like Asian cinema being comedic and wacky and over the top, there's this like idea of like, bug-eyed expressions and fish-eyed camera lenses and like, oh, over the top, in your face silliness, whether that comes from TV shows, movies, or animation. But Takashi Miike hasn't done that too much in the films that we have covered. Like, even Gozu, as crazy as it wasn't like that type of comedy presentation. And this movie being the more overt comedy, I was just admiring the fact like he is shooting this like it is an MGM musical. But then it's presented with the color grading and some of these close-up shots and the cutting as if it's a horror film almost, or as if it is like a Baroque painting. Like there's something, because when you mentioned like we're doing this for Spooky Month, and I was watching this movie and I'm like, okay, where's the spooky? Like what makes this that? And and what I realized was like halfway through the movie is like, as much as I'm laughing, there's also like a clenched jaw aspect to this, and it's because the film is very, very claustrophobic, even though we're in wide open spaces so often. Like, how does he do that? And it's like these close shots and these weird, like this unsettling lack of color.
There were moments, I just remembered now, that there were moments, especially early on, that were kind of reminding me a little bit of Twin Peaks: The Return in a way. Like, I remember one of them would be when they're watching the TV and there's that, reporter and the bug goes up his nose and he's trying to keep with it and they're like kind of laughing but also kind of,
and it goes on so long.
It goes on for so long. It's like, what is going on here? This almost it wasn't anywhere near as extreme as Bobby finding that body outside the diner.
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
woman,
in Twin
like,
Peaks, yeah.
but it was starting to feel like it was going somewhere in this kind of like something's wrong with this world
Yeah, I was
territory.
waiting for that guy to like die or his head explode or like he bleeds or something, and then they just went, change the channel.
This is a bit of an esoteric comparison, but it was reminding me a lot of there's this adventure game called Harvester.
I haven't heard of it, no.
Yeah, but we've got to tell the Quest guys probably know about it.
Yes, yes.
Where that's set in a world that is basically kind of like Twin Peaks: The Return. Like, violence has kind of taken over this world, and these very horrifying things happen very matter-of-factly, but it's, treated... But
it's just treated as is.
Yeah, treated very as is, even though, someone just was killed here. It's a so bad it's good kind of thing, it's not high art or anything, but yeah, it was reminding me of like that kind of uncomfortable level.
I was just trying to think of with this, why did it end the way it did, where their place now went to this almost Garden of Eden like location where there's all of these animals and landscapes that were analog, like they're conflicting. And I'm just like, and they're so happy to be there, and I'm just like, okay, it was such a strange sequence of events. Like, they set it up, it was a real nothing but trouble type setup where like there's constant explosions in the background of the movie,
the mountains of volcano,
and you're waiting for that to, like in Nothing But Trouble, where like you keep hearing like the mines underneath their house exploding, and you're like, okay, this will pay off, and it does in that movie too. But yeah, that was just such a bizarre ending. But then it's like, don't think about that part. Think about this emotional bit with the great grandfather, and like the idea of generations and how things change and pass, and you grow up. And this is a story about growing up in a lot of ways, and about the transition points. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the happiness, like, oh, we're doing this now? Like, it was just such a, I'm not against it, but it was just such a whiplash of like, the movie just did all of this stuff and said, okay, we did that plot stuff. Now let's go to the theme stuff. And it was like,
yeah.
Okay, you do you.
I don't fully buy into this, but, I was trying to, like, rack my brain to come up with an explanation. But with the grandfather, ascending to heaven or whatever that was in the end, it was making me think back to the beginning of the film where the stuff that we opened on, the stuff that we said didn't tie into the plot, but, like, gave you an idea of what the film would be like, there was, like, a cycle of, like...
life and death
going on there, where it's, like, takes the uvula, eats it, and then is eaten by the crow, eaten by that, like, pencil case bag monster. Then another bird like lays an egg, and the gremlin alien thing's there, and then that gets eaten again by another bird. It flies off, and then the grandfather kills that thing.
Yeah, kills a bird. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, you're the last one to have killed something, so you're the next one to go, maybe, or something like that. But it was very, uplifting and literally uplifting.
Yeah,
and positive.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe there's an idea there. Maybe that was the purpose of that opening sequence.
But I thought of so many films, but this film is so singular as well. Like, even though this is a remake of something that neither of us had seen before,
no,
I would be keen to cover it at some point. I mean, we should circle back around to it with enough time in between.
Yeah, there's some actors we're familiar with.
Actors
there.
and
not from the podcast, but just in our own viewing.
Well, one of them from the South Korean version is in a movie we covered.
Oh, really? Which one?
The guy from Old Boy.
Oh, yes,
was
he was in
Lucy.
Yes. I was thinking of South Korean films, but not French.
But yes, you didn't think of French Hollywood. But yes, he was the best part of Lucy. I actually re-listened to our bit on Lucy where I mentioned him, and I was like, oh, he's the best part of this movie. And you're like, yeah, he's got a lot of presence. I'm like, oh boy, you should see Old Boy. And like, oh, maybe. And you were very like, oh,
and listening people in my own time, I think I watched it like a month ago, and he was very good.
He's great.
He's fantastic, in fact.
You can see why he's one of the actors.
Yeah, and I think, what was he, the grandfather equivalent, I think?
No, wait. Yeah, I think he was like the uncle, like his uncle.
Oh, the uncle equivalent.
His uncle.
Okay.
And then the son, this is confusing because I don't think they have the great-grandfather equivalent in the original. He's the uncle equivalent. The son equivalent is played by the actor who's in Parasite and Memories of Murder and a whole bunch of great films, Snowpiercer and things like that. But no, what I was going to say is like a film that I want to say I would pair this with, but the other film I want to pair it with is much heavier. Because it made me think of it so much was Memories of Matsuko. I kept thinking of Memories of Matsuko during this, like the memory, like the visual style, the musical numbers, the emphasis on like cultural values and like generational things, and like, but that film's way bigger in scope.
Yeah, that was the episode where we talked about, like, is this a comedy?
Yeah,
what does it mean to be a comedy?
What is a comedy?
Your big point?
Yeah, what is it? Because
like the comedy's in service of like heartbreak.
Yes. You said to me before we hit the record that we have some familiarities with certain actors involved in this.
Literally just on the bus on the way here, I was looking up the cast, just the ones that are linked on Wikipedia, and I'm like, oh, surprise, surprise. So when my phone's near the microphone, it's weird. So one of the actors is obviously the great-grandfather character, played by an actor called Tetsuro Tamba. There were three notable things. One of them we haven't seen, but we've talked about. He was apparently in the original version of 13 Assassins.
Oh.
So a 60s or 70s film, I can't remember, but from that. This one's a bit more vague. Wikipedia and IMDb don't say what the role is, but apparently he was in Gozu.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it just lists his, actor name.
It would be one of his late roles, because he died 2-3 years after this film.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? And then the last one, and this one really surprised me because it's not a Japanese film. He was in Story of Ricky.
Oh.
He was the character that in the episode I was calling the ghost uncle, like from the flashbacks, it's kind of like a mentor character.
Okay, and I didn't understand what the fuck he was on about.
Yeah, Master Zhang's apparently his name. But yeah, he was that.
Because that's
uncle,
a Chinese movie, right?
Yeah, Cantonese Hong Kong, I think.
Okay.
And then the other actor, and I was hinting to you, like, this wasn't one of the main characters, but, he's in the film.
Role.
We actually talked about him. He's the news reporter guy with the
bug up his nose.
So we've actually heard him in two films that we have covered on the podcast. One of them was in Penguin Highway.
Oh.
He was the dad of the little girl in that film.
Oh, yes.
Yep. And then the other one, I'm not going to tell you who he was, but I want to show you who he was.
Okay.
And Ryan, you tell us what you see.
Okay. Oh, it's a Satoshi Kon film.
No.
No? Oh, is it
we covered it this
Pat
year.
Labor.
Pat Labor 2.
Oh, is he the bad guy?
Yeah.
He's the best character of the movie?
Yeah, apparently he voices that character.
I saw the face, and it's Bartek showed me such a Satoshi Kon bug, but that character's face in the movie is so distorted.
Yeah, Shigeki Arakawa from Pat Labor 2.
People, if you haven't watched Pat Labor 2, give it a whirl. It's great.
He was great in it,
and he's the best character by far. His character is all ideology, and it's all interesting ideology, and he has a lazy eye, which is cool. Man. So, we're going to talk about Richard.
Yeah, oh, yes, we haven't talked about Richard.
The best character of the film by a country mile for me. I loved Richard. I loved how obvious things were going bad for him. I loved, when he drank the bad water and oh, this is great. And, he's shitting himself oh, he deserves this. But then he goes out in a way that... was not expecting still. It was just still all strange and off the beaten path. He falls off a cliffside and then he still comes back.
Richard was great. His actor is also apparently a rock musician.
I'm not surprised. He looks like it.
Yeah, not with us anymore apparently. I think when I looked it up, but yeah, it's a shame. Let's look at his name.
But no, Richard, for those who need a refresher,
Kiyoshiro Imawano.
There you are. No, for people who need a refresher, Richard is this con man piece of shit wannabe ladies man who pretends
he's from the British Royal Navy.
Yeah, he's in the army, he's in the Navy and the army, and he's pretending to do that. He's dressed up in a costume and he's wooing one of the family members and wiggling his way into their lives. But you find out he does this to so many people. He has his death scene and he's just
he's a dirty rotten scoundrel.
He is from the film Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. He's Steve Martin.
Yeah, he claims to be a half Japanese, half British Navy officer who's also the nephew of Queen Elizabeth II. He speaks in gratuitous English throughout this film.
Yes, it's not very good.
Your mother so beautiful, kind of thing. Oh, I forgot. His name's Richard Sagawa.
He was so awesome.
And we talked about before, he has, in his first scene, he has a love song with the daughter character. Just has like a very samba energy to it.
And you find out it's a dream for her. Like she's like writhing on the ground and he's just like, huh? He's kind of confused and everyone's like looking at her like disgusted and walk off.
They kind of, I guess they're doing like the thing that later on the film Frozen would do, where it's like, oh, this main character meets the love interest, they fall in love instantly, have a song, but they're actually, a scoundrel.
Yeah. You just were happy. You were just happy to see him because they perfectly progressed the level of despicable. His phone call. We already know he's full of shit, but then he does this phone call where he's like, I'm flying over Iraq right now, and he's like getting shot at. He's like, I can't hear you.
Oh, Johnny!
Johnny,
Like, Johnny, what happened to Johnny?
Who's Johnny? What happened to Johnny? And then like you cut to him in his like shitty little apartment and he's sitting in like
one room apartment at like just a desk.
Shirtless, I think. And like I think he was like wearing women's underwear. Like had women's underwear near him. I can't remember if he was wearing it, but like
he's just bumming around in a one room
and you don't
apartment.
but you only see him from behind. Yeah. Like it is, again, and he looks so small in his shitty apartment. Like he's just so pathetic. Like you just watch this and you go, you're so pathetic.
I was half expecting him to like blow his brains out
I
at
know.
the end of that sequence.
I liked when they incorporated the great grandfather in though. Like the great grandfather gave him the stink eye from pretty early on, and then anytime like when they finally had their climactic battle and it turned into stop motion and he's just like, Richard's such a weasel. He's going to cut the vine and take them both down. Like he's just such a prick.
I think he was hanging on above the part he was cutting, but yeah.
But he was still holding on to the vine too. It was just so funny. He's a standout character for me. But did you have a favorite family member? Did you say?
That's a good question. Did I have a favorite family member?
The son/uncle character rose up for me in the final moments when he thought he was dying. And it was like a really drawn out melodramatic thing, and then you just see it's like the tiniest little grays. And I thought the character was fine, but that moment really helped elevate him into like top 3. He was so good, and that actor did it so well.
And even the filmmaking, I like that we, the audience, saw the wound and were realizing for ourselves before the characters' reactions there. Like, oh, they lifted the shirt, there's blood there, the hand like looks confused, wipes it away, and like, oh yeah, there's definitely a cut there, but like doesn't look that deep.
It's not all that long.
And their realization and just like the awkwardness, and like, he just sits up, he like does like a very energetic like jump up, bit of a shake, and he's like, he doesn't say anything, but he's just like, oh, I'm fine.
That's what makes it better.
Like he could have even just said something like, oh, I guess I was caught up in the energy of it or something.
I liked all of his t-shirts that had English on it. Yeah, he had one that was in like reverse, like mirrored, and I was trying to read it, but I just couldn't get it. Something.
Yeah,
it was something odd.
There was some trivia point about how like this one brand, I think it was like Kappa or something, like had a lot of shirts, and he and some other character were wearing a lot of them.
Oh, cool. But did you have any? I think honestly, like for me, the great grandfather and the mother, like the grandmother, like they were really good for me. They were both entertaining characters, and then the son.
No, those are really solid picks. Yeah, the great grandfather definitely stepped up for me towards the end when he was more front and center. The scene where he's approaching the police officers and he's holding out his arms like get ready to arrest me, and they just move past him. And when it takes him a while to realize, and when he does, he just collapses on the ground.
I like the police officer. He's like the ultimate dork. And he's like oversized uniform, and he looks like a milkman almost. Like he's just like on a bicycle.
Overly, polite,
He's an Ace Attorney type character.
He is, yeah. He's Mike Meekins.
Yeah, he's Mike Meekins. This did have some Ace Attorney vibes to it with some of these characters. And I'm like, oh, I can see why they got this director to do it.
It's purely because of the happiness of the Katakuris.
Or he's just a guy who works. Takashi Miike is a man who loves to work.
In that case, you can get him for anything, and they have.
Is there any aspects of the spooky horror monthness of our coverage that you want to say in relation to this film?
I guess it is a little bit more understated compared to a more traditional spooky month film. Again, I walked into this not really knowing too much of the point. Like, I had all these disjointed things. Like, okay, there's this promotional shot of them doing like a Sound of Musical family, huddling together, can kind of thing. There's this crazy poster. There's stop motion in this. I didn't know the premise of like, the guests keep dying in mundane ways. I guess I was kind of expecting there to be some sort of like ultimate reason behind why they kept dying, but no, the reveal in the end was just that it was, terribly bad luck for them.
I'm happy that this came first because there is a vibe to the movie. There is an aesthetic to the movie that does feel appropriate for October time. But if we watch this late in our spooky month, I think I would have been a little bit less like, I want, it's a thing of like, this isn't scary, but this isn't spooky either. It's got the right level of like, this is uncomfortable. It's strange because thinking back, like we did Gozu last year. And Gozu, I would also say, is like an interesting spooky month pick because like Gozu isn't scary, but it is scary in the sense that it is a panic attack caught on screen for like almost 2 hours.
Yeah, that's what you said. Just a constant fever dream.
It's a constant fever dream. Like that is what it's doing. And so it's much more suitable. But like in realism, this is more suitable, but like I would rather watch Gozu this time of year, even though like Gozu it's like saying Uncut Gems is a spooky movie. It's like, no, it just makes me feel awful and feel anxiety. Gozu does that, but with much more of a again, dreamlike sensibility. But no, I very much enjoyed this. I would love to rewatch this with a group of people. I do recommend this. I think this is a very good newcomer type movie for people wanting to try out like Japanese or foreign films as well. Like this doesn't feel like impenetrable because sometimes like when we cover even like something like Gozu, not even just because it's insane, but like sometimes when you watch a foreign film or like an Asian film specifically, there's a little bit the cultural barrier that you have to get past. This is so stripped away from all of that because it is about a family with a struggling business that enters a game of having to hide bodies. You get it. Like that's a movie where it's like you can see why South Korea made it. You can see why Japan made it. I'm surprised America hasn't done it.
I will say, if you guys have seen Parasite, like this could be a good one to follow up that on because it's also got like a family thing going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're making these like not so moral decisions.
Yeah,
while still being kind of together.
But no, I did want to just reference that fact because every now and then we watch movies here and we go like, okay, this is not something you show to someone who's not as versed in certain types of films, whether they be genre or whether they be from a country or not. But
Gozu,
this is one where it's like, yeah, you could do this.
Yeah, Gozu, you got to kind of brace yourself beforehand. 13 Assassins, maybe a bit brace yourself.
I think that one's pretty easy for most people.
Relatively, but this one, like, very easily, like, hey, this is a good one. You can check this out easy.
We mentioned Satoshi Kon just a little bit ago, who did Paprika and Perfect Blue and Tokyo Godfathers, and it's like, he's a great example of that too. It's like Perfect Blue. I mean, that's just such a great movie. Pretty much most people can come in, but like Tokyo Godfathers, that's the entry one. Like that's a fun Christmas movie.
That's the first one I recommended.
You don't give people Paprika immediately.
No.
That movie's. I mean, I liked it, but that movie's fucked up and weird.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're Christopher Nolan fans, maybe give them Paprika so that they could appreciate like what he riffs on with.
Yeah, you haven't
Satoshi
seen
Kon.
it yet, but also you probably wouldn't start with Paranoia Agent.
No. But would you recommend this film?
Honestly, Ryan, I just back up everything you basically said there. I completely agree. This is, check this one out.
So, next up on the roster is my time to recommend a film.
Yes.
And
Ryan's spooky.
I'm a spooky, and I've already given some hints and clues along the way leading up to this that I'm going to pick an Alfred Hitchcock film from 1940. Ooh. I do believe, I'll double check this for next time, I think this was his first Hollywood American film, Rebecca. That's the name of the movie. Rebecca from 1940, starring Laurence Olivier. He's one of the big names, and a few others. Joan Fontaine is the lead. Very, very interesting film. Hopefully we have a good time talking about it. We have never done an Alfred Hitchcock movie on this podcast because it's like, neither of us just have never ever recommended one. I think for me, it's always been a case of like, what can you say? It's Alfred Hitchcock.
Well, for me, I've talked about it before. I've only seen Psycho.
Yeah.
I need to actually check out more of his films.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, we host a movie podcast where we pick our movies, and you could have at any time said, like, I've only ever seen Psycho. Maybe I should check out this Hitchcock movie. And it just hasn't come up. I think, I can't speak for you, but I think it's just because even if you haven't seen some of his movies, it's like, well, it's Hitchcock. You know, it's the big guy. Like, what hasn't been said? But I think
we've gone through some similar routines in the past where it's like, oh, we recommended this big iconic film that we haven't actually seen but know the reputation of, and then we check it out and it's like, oh, that actually completely is still valid. Like Rashomon was a big one.
Yeah, or big filmmakers. Like, we've only done one Tarantino on the pod, right? And so it's like, because it's Tarantino. But Hitchcock, Rebecca, should be interesting. Again, that context of like, it's one of his first Hollywood features, so that'll be an interesting thing to think about. And it's a great spooky October time movie to do, and I really like it. So we'll be seeing how it holds up. I haven't watched it in a while, and Bartek hasn't seen it before. So everyone, make sure to tune in for our next movie discussion, where we'll be doing that. But in the meantime, you can contact us or follow us on the social medias of Facebook and Twitter. If you have thoughts or things you want to tell us more directly, as well as recommend films, you can hit us up on those social medias or our email address, which is...
Our email address is spitandpolished@gmail.com.
And make sure to rate and review the podcast. Share it around, let people know. It is greatly appreciated if you could do that. But until next time, listening people, just make sure not to steal our ashtrays, okay? Or else I'll have to push you off a cliffside if you do that, okay?
Ryan's very protective of his ashtrays.
Yeah, I am. And Bartek, he's protective of our key, our very special key that he will not jam into his neck accidentally. He won't do that.
Yeah.
I got a real question for you, Bartek, as we end this on. If you were going to die tomorrow, this is your last night alive, what would you do?
So it's night and I'm already at home?
Yeah, what would you do?
It's going to sound a little bit wild, but I think I'll stay up all night.
Okay. Doing what?
Just not sleeping.
Okay.
Literally live every last minute.
You're waiting for your death, is basically what you're indicating.
If the power's not out, I'll probably maybe play a game.
Okay. What game would you play? What would be Bartek's final game? Gun to your head, like not a literal gun, but like figurative gun to your head.
Yeah, I was just thinking continuing with whatever I had, but what would I maybe go back to something? I don't know.
Maybe try something you've never done before.
Yeah, but a lot of the games that I have in my backlog are really long ones, so it's like, I wouldn't even get to the end.
Yeah, so you're going to go back and play like a Crash Bandicoot or something?
Yeah, maybe something from my childhood, maybe one last go of the old Spyro.
You know what? I love that. Bartek's last words will be one last go of the old Spyro, and then just plays it. And then
is everyone gonna also die this night, or just
no?
me?
Just you.
Okay.
When you die, though, I'll make sure to play some Spyro music at your funeral.
No Amanda Show music.
No Babylon 5's the original cut of The Gathering music.
If everyone else was gonna die, I would have probably called up your wife and like, hey, let's do some Spyro. You bring Ryan as well, why not? Because we're the Spyro heads.